So there's a lot of talk right now going on with some tempers flaring between Russia and the Western nations, NATO nations, as well as the United States. But Russia did a military buildup of a bunch of troops near Ukraine, and obviously since the takeover of Crimea, I guess people are worried that Ukraine is going to be invaded by Russia. Now, the interesting thing about this is, I actually think that this is a big attempt at Vladimir Putin trying to distract from what's really going on inside of Russia. This is a very common strategy for politicians: start wars or do actions that could lead to war, or do these kinds of things because they end up helping your numbers or distracting from what's going on at home. So this is a very common strategy. We've seen this all the time with U.S. politicians. So what exactly is going on in Russia that would provoke them to make this decision, right? It's funny because they're doing the build up, and then NATO's getting troops ready, and then Putin's saying we have a red line. It's like, dude, you're building up your military on the border of Ukraine. What do you think is going to happen? But obviously he's trolling. What's really going on is COVID is fucking Russia really hard right now. They went into a partial lockdown, but it's really interesting because they have had the Sputnik, I don't know, 5 or V or whatever, vaccine that some science studies do say that it has good efficacy numbers. But only like 30% of Russia is fully vaccinated despite having a gigantic stock of vaccines. And I guess that's because of a lot of weird like alternative medicine ideas, as well as like maybe the church's influence. I think in Russia, it's the Orthodox Church, I think, is the dominant religion there. But it's interesting because you would expect such an authoritarian country like Russia, where Putin kills all of his political opponents and poisons them to death and doesn't care about killing people and stuff like that, would be scared of doing something authoritarian in terms of like forcing vaccinations or something like that, right? That is something that's surprising, but it's because it's incredibly unpopular amongst the Russian people. I guess they don't really care about coronavirus, and I read that they don't trust the government in this situation, which is funny because all throughout Russia's history, there was never any real pluralism, so it just led to just massive, massive autocracies. I think ever since like Alexander the Terrible. So, it is, you would imagine they love the authoritarianism there, right? But you can see here what's going on is they had to go into partial lockdown in October because starting in late September, the deaths started to really rise. So you can see in early October, it's starting to get up to like the 900s daily. And in October, in the October 20th, it seems it crossed 1,000 deaths. And since October 20th, it's been over a month, the numbers have continually risen. And they have not really gone into like a real, true, serious, full lockdown, but they did go into a brief partial lockdown. But I guess Putin is too scared to do anything because he doesn't want to lose the support of Russians if he were to go under a lockdown. So he's hesitant to actually do so because politically it would be a bad maneuver for him. But you can see a country that has, the population that Russia has of like 140 million and whatnot. This is really going to impact them in terms of how many deaths this is. I mean, this is like a month's worth of just 1,000, over 1,000, sometimes like 1,200 people dying every single day from coronavirus. That's obviously a really significant amount, and it appears that it's going to continue for quite a while because the vaccination rate is just so god awful. It's just so low, right? It's like 30% full vaccinated. That's complete garbage. So you just kind of have to look at this and say, obviously what Putin is doing here is he's trying to distract from the crisis that's going on at home because he wants to, obviously get the bad attention from this away. But I don't see this getting better for Russia. I see this as getting worse. And it's definitely surprising, obviously, to see such an authoritarian nation not making, potentially authoritarian moves in this scenario. But the reason is because it's simply a bad political maneuver for Putin if he wants to win. That's essentially what it is. So it's interesting to see what exactly is going on here. But this is the real reason of what's going on. And the truth is, Russia right now is really going through a crisis.